mentioned, a vision board is a collage of images and words representing a person's wishes or goals that is intended to serve as an inspiration and motivation. Now I'll just hop back over and share with you a bit. So for example, this is a vision board that I did some time ago. It's a physical version of a vision board, and on it I have a mix of images and words that relate to things that I wanted to manifest in my life. So for example, you would see terms such as, what are my goals for my family? And I have very specific things there. Blessed is she who believed that the Lord would fulfill his promises to her. And I try to be as specific as possible when making that vision board. Here's another that we'll get into a bit. This one I did digitally and then printed it because I wanted the option to have it in spaces such as on my phone, and also to have the option to print it off and to keep it at home. But you are largely right in terms of that, the fact that a vision board is something that we use to kind of visually represent what our future goals are. Right. So, how many persons here has ever done a vision board? By going in our chat, you can just tell us how many of you here has ever done a vision board. I would have done one, as I mentioned before. And someone saying anything, something? I can hardly hear. All right, so I would have done vision boarding for quite a little while. I see people on our Insta Live saying they can't see. And admittedly, because persons who are on our webinar would be better equipped to see. And that's why we were encouraging everyone to sign on up to be in a position to see what's happening. But not to worry, laughing doll. We will have a replay of this and we can share it with you at the end of the webinar. All right, so you're seeing on your screen here now what would have been the two versions I showed you, what would be a printed version as well as a digital sort of version of a vision board. And why do people do this thing? Why do a vision board? Or what is the vision board principle? For me, or from what I've learned, the vision board principle is based on the law of attraction. And it states that your mode of thinking directly affects what the universe gives you. It pretty much also says that if you put positive mental energy into the universe, you'll be the recipient of positive outcomes. So, in a sense, it speaks about what starts in your mind and how you can use that to actualize what becomes your reality. Andre, do you want to add anything at all to what constitutes the vision board in principle?
Yes, as far as from a psychological standpoint, there is a gentleman by the name of Albert Bandura, actually. He was the one who introduced the concept of self-efficacy to us. And in essence, what self-efficacy speaks to in a concise way, it is the yes you can principle. I suspect Mr. Barack Obama may have used it also.
Yes.
but on a serious note though, yes you can. It is saying that, listen, I have the ability to do so irrespective even of how I feel about something. And so your faith um, in what you can achieve goes a long way in your achieving it. And so even as far as the principles that govern the vision board that says, what I think about my future, what I put out there, and of course equally important, how do I work towards achieving it? Because it's one thing to say I wish, and the vision board is not just only a wish. A matter of fact, I wouldn't even call it a wish, but it is how is it that I am going to achieve this objective, and what are the plans I'm putting in forward to do so. And I'm not even going to allow my circumstances to interfere with those plans, um, and 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 also to have all of those a positive mindset that yes, I am able to achieve this objective. I think it's very, very important for us to to experience and achieve the vision board principle and objective.
And I'm super happy that you made that distinction, Andre, because I've had someone say to me before, that of course it's not magic. They're saying, how do I put something on a piece of paper and it translates into something that is going to happen in my life? And I made the point about how when you write something down, when you put something in front of you in a very visible way, when you have something there as a constant reminder, and you're also backing that with belief and action, it's almost like it's a recipe for success.
That's right.
Now,
That's
I will
right.
share a personal experience as well, because I I hadn't been doing vision boards per se for a very long time, and Andre will tell you a bit more as well as you go along, because he would have spoken about how to set your New Year's resolutions in a set. And so for a while, there were years when I wouldn't do New Year's resolutions. It was like, yeah, whatever, I know what I'm about. But I can admit that for the years when I did not specifically jot down what my goals and my resolutions were for the year, it was a wonderless year. It was whatever happened, happened, whatever comes. And then the year ends and you realize and say, boy, I really never meet my targets. But what happened as well, because you were not very clear about those targets. And so I remember about in 2017 or so, I didn't do the New Year's resolution, but about the earlier part of the year, I sat down and I said, I'm just going to make a list of all of the things that I really want to achieve this year. And I was very specific about the things. So that's something else to note as well with your vision boards. Be very specific. Don't just say, boy, I want to be rich. Try to quantify and to give some timelines as well. I would like to be in a position, or I would love to earn X amount by Y period. And so when I was doing my vision board at the time, one of the things that was near and dear to me was in terms of career growth. And I wanted in particular to access some of the training opportunities that would have been available in other countries. And the process at work sometimes to approve international training opportunities was very difficult. In any case, I wanted to do this thing. I put it on my vision board that, listen, I want to do more conferences for the year. And even as the time was drawing nigh, I didn't see where it was possible. But in the back of my head, or in the fore of my mind rather, I kept saying what I could see myself learning from the course, how I would feel being at the course, what I think I could take away from the course. And that was what I had front and center of my mind. And literally almost 2 weeks to go before the course, it just happened that some funding became available. Now, the thing with funding sometimes is that if you do not use it in a project scope, it gets sent back. But typically, as I've seen from several other undertakings, when project funds become available, they're used to buy some forward things for the project. So it may be that they might buy promotional items or branding items or other things that can be used in the project. But that particular year, somebody, in line with my vision, made a decision that they were going to focus on training opportunities for the staff. And so it was that I was able to go to that course. And I say that to say, that for a while I wasn't a believer per se, because as I say, I wouldn't write down my resolutions. I would say it can happen, it cannot happen. But then after I saw that happen, and I literally started paying more close attention, and so as time went along, I really started focusing on what's on my board. And I started saying, all right, what is the next thing that I really truly want to happen in my life? So I just had to share this with you, that sometimes we're skeptical, but as Andre mentioned in his definition, or, his overarching um, meaning of the vision board principle, it's a mix of what you believe and what you keep at the forefront of your mind, and also some of the action that you put into it. From my end, I did not physically go to someone to ask for me to be sent to the training, but it was something that I started seeing myself being there. I literally started saying to myself, boy, if I go to this training, I would be in a position to do X, Y, and Z. So I just wanted to share that with you before jumping over to our next slide. And there's something that I just want you to consider. There are two little quotes that I pulled out, and one of them reads, There is nothing on earth that you cannot have once you have mentally accepted the fact that you can have it. So you heard what Andre said about it being based on the yes you can principle. And you heard my little testimonial, and I just want you to take a minute to let this sink in. There is nothing on earth that you cannot have once you have mentally accepted the fact that you can have it. Right? Do you have anything in particular to say as it relates to this quote, Andre?
Well, one thing I will say is the fact that I like how you mentioned the front and center, because the truth be told, um, if you don't mentally accept it, you will never have it.
Mm,
In relation to the quote, the Robert Collier quote, if you have not mentally accepted it, then chances are you will not, you cannot have it. So there is a lot of truths in this statement. Um, what I will say though, I really appreciate how you emphasize the front and center, and even identified that it is because it was now front and center why you you know accepted the vision board concept, because now it was front and center. And if it is not front and center, folks, believe you me, we're going to have an issue as far as how far we get along in life and the kind of life we want to live going forward. But it has to be front and center. One person would say you have to see yourself in 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 action, see yourself doing it, you know, see yourself carrying out the work, see yourself execute. It's like you dream it, you all nightmare it.
mhm,
so so everything, it becomes a part of you. And so once it becomes a part of you, then whether, even without even recognizing what you're doing, you're already putting things in place, consciously and unconsciously, by the way, about achieving that goal and that objective. But first you have to see yourself there. You have to mentally recognize and accept that, listen, this is where I am going to be 1 year time, 2 years time. And then,
mhm.
of course, you have to start putting things in place. But if you don't see yourself there, then 1 or 2 years time, it won't happen. What you'll find a lot of times, Shana, is that folks make wishes, okay, and that's why they don't accomplish their goals, because it's just a wishful thinking.
Mhm.
Whereas the difference between the vision board and a wishful thinking is that you see yourself there and you're acting as if to say you're in the part.
Mhm.
You're acting as if to say you're in the part. Okay, it's as if to say you start to play the role before you get the 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 the, the what am I looking for? The part. You know, you're playing the role before you get the part. It's like in a movie or whatever. You say, I'm going to star in this movie, and you start to behave as if you're an actor and you have not even been in a movie
Mm.
before. But you're playing the part before you get the part, so to speak. And that's one of the unique things and aspect of the vision board. And if you don't see yourself there mentally, then clearly you will not be there at all.
And that is perfectly said, Andre, because the truth is, again, it is about referring to the power of your mind, you know? Even before I knew of the terminology about vision boarding, there is something akin to what you would call faith. And pretty much faith speaks to how you believe. How, not just what you believe, you know, but how you believe. And I would like to say if there was ever a takeaway from vision boarding, it is about how you train your mind to be more positive. Let me just say that. So I will share as well that I had a friend, and she see me talking about vision board, and she said, "I see you on Smile Jamaica talking and stuff," and she said, "I did a vision board and I did not achieve any of the things on it." And I kind of started asking her, what are the things she wrote on it, and she said, "Oh, she wrote that she wanted to get married and she wanted to have a baby and she wanted to have a house and all kind of stuff." And I said, "And nothing happened?" And she said, "Well, she got married." So, I said, "At what point in the year did you get married?" And she told me. And I said, "Well, maybe the order or the sequencing was that you should get married and then you would have the baby after." So I said, "Maybe your vision board is still in progress." But what it also brought to the fore is again what we said. It's not a magic formula that you write it down and you just put it there and forget about it and expect that it's all going to work in your favor. It's like you're literally seeing yourself living it. I'll tell you what happened. So one of my jobs, actually, I wanted that job so badly. And even before I did the interview, I was starting to tell people, say, yeah, man, that's where I work. And it felt a little funny to me because I didn't want to be lying, but it's almost like I was speaking it into being to say that's where I work. And I literally could see, I started mapping out in my head and said, all right, if I have to drive from here to here, this is the route I'm going to take. And what do you know? I got the job. But it is about how powerful our minds are. And even if you take away from the entire concept and the entire principle of vision boarding, it is about the power of your mind. And so I say to people, just even in your own little space, just things like every time somebody talks to you and say, how you doing? Boy, me pop down. Boy, me tired. Boy, me nah no energy. Boy, me broke. You know? So sometimes it's just about changing the very words we use to describe ourselves. There's power. You ever hear that there's life and death in the tongue? And there's power in our words. And so I find sometimes we just need to be a bit more positive in the things or the ways that we describe ourselves. Focus on some of the things. How are you doing? I am alive. I have an opportunity to grow. You know, those are some of the things that we can focus on. So I just wanted to point that out and emphasize that a part of the vision boarding principle again is in the power of your mind and how you can use that to actualize positive things for yourself. So I'm going to go back to the screen again. And this, in essence, reiterates exactly what we have been saying. You know, your success depends mainly on what you think of yourself and whether you believe in yourself. Anything in particular you want to add in relation to this quote, Andre?
Yes, I want to, even before the quote, I want to say something about what you stated about positive thinking. I think it is such. I think your quotes are nice, but your statements sound to be even sweeter.
Ah,
Um, let me say this about positive thinking. To think positively, Shanoy, it doesn't mean that only good things will happen. It does not mean that you will never be sick or be immune to accidents or even failures, and that you will not have problems, that you will not feel pain. It does not mean that everyone will love you and that you will never suffer and that you will always be a winner. No. Being positive, however, does mean it speaks to rather an attitude, a change in attitude to everything that happens to you. That's what positive thinking speaks to. It is turning disadvantages and misfortunes actually into advantages and transforming um, every negative into something positive and constructive, positive and constructive. And so, as the saying goes, when life gives us what? Lemons, we
lemons,
make lemonade.
lemonade.
Right, right. And so that is, I just thought it necessary to mention that as it relates to your statement about positive thinking, because um, we get bombarded by negative thinking, and we allow it to interfere with where we want to go and even how we want to achieve our goals and our objectives. And maybe as time goes on, we can speak to some of those things. But in relation to your quote here now, it says your success depends mainly upon what you think of yourself and whether you believe in yourself. Well, definitely, I hope what I just stated about positive thinking um, very much so supports what William J. H. And I can't pronounce that.
Fancy. Boitcut, I would think.
Right. But whatever William said, I totally agree. I
Okay,
totally
great.
agree. Yeah.
All right, so as you would have been hearing, we're speaking about the more positive aspects of what is included in vision boarding. It's about taking something from just your mind space and pretty much making it a part of your system of doing things, your way of doing things. And we will speak about that part in a second. But I wanted to say as well that when you do your vision board, it's an activity worth doing in your quiet time or even before you put together the board itself. Think about what would be the top 3 to 5 goals that you would want to achieve in your life. And I say that because I think, especially for me, I got up one year and I said I wanted focus. That was my theme for the year, focus. And I will say why, because, some persons, there are tons of things that they want to do. So in your mind, you want to do this and you want to do that and you want to do 50 different things at the same time. But sometimes you have to narrow it down and focus your energies on those things. So, for example, I remember when I was doing my vision board, I said to myself, somebody literally gave me an image of a car, and I said, I don't need to put that on it because as much as at some point I would love to have a nicer car or a nice car, that was not a priority for me. What was a priority for me in that particular instance was that work had become so overwhelming that I was not spending time with my daughter. And she was at the stage where, y- she's already liking her friends more. And I say, I genuinely do not have time. And so that was something I did not see what my way out would have been, but I knew I needed a way out. And every single fiber of my being, all of my energies, I channeled into that to say, I need an option that allows me to have more quality time with her. And so that was one of the things I put on my vision board. But I mentioned this to say when you're doing your vision board, it is a complete exercise. It's not just getting up one day and just drag one piece of paper and just slap down some things on it. It requires that you spend some time, thinking truly about what it is that you want to achieve. What are your key goals? Or if it means if it's 10 things you want to do, sit down and prioritize them. Try to focus on the top 5 that you say, all right, you want to achieve the shorter term or the medium term or the longer term. And in fact, I would dare say that as you go along in the year, you can adjust your vision board if you find that you have achieved some of those goals and you want to challenge yourself to accept more goals, to achieve more goals. Um, Andre, I'm seeing a question coming here. Tessa is asking, what time span should a vision board be for? So, wow, that's interesting because I kind of started alluding to that, Tessa, that your vision board, right? You have to think about your goals and how long it may take to achieve them and be realistic. I would say the same plan you use when you're doing objectives, like in my communication field, we always say to make your goals and objectives be smart, to make them be specific, to let them be measurable, to let them be achievable, to let them be realistic, and let them be timely. So, for example, if you say, all right, you want six pack or you want abs, and you know that your current program or based on where your body is and where your body wants to be, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. You can say, okay, that is a 6 month to a 1 year goal. If it is that you say you want to have financial independence, it could be that that itself can be split into smaller batches. The first step could be, all right, how can I achieve financial independence? I'm going to start doing a budget as one. Two, I'm going to see if I can set a meeting with a financial advisor to say, how can I possibly save from what I earn every month? Or three, it can be, how can I reduce some of the expenses in my household to ensure that I have something left? So in terms of the time span, it will largely depend on your goals. If you want to go back to school, for example, for say September coming, that's something you could probably put on your board for January. Because even though it may seem in some respects to your mind frame that it may not be possible, you know, you can actually manifest it. That's what they call the terminology. You can manifest your goals. But I will ask Andre if he wants to add anything else. But largely, I would say, in terms of time span for your vision boards and your goals, it would be based on the goal and how long it is likely to take to realistically achieve them.
I fully concur with everything that you stated. One of the things, though, I want to go back to that word being realistic, because sometimes we are we are not realistic, and we are just uh, we want to achieve what we see other people have, and we don't really own the goal ourselves. And that's the reason why it is not really it, it, it so that's why it is just a personal thinking, or a personal wish, I should say, and not so much now something that I own. And so a part of being realistic is whether or not to say I have the necessary resources, or the wherewithal in order to achieve this particular objective. If I do have good health, do I have good health, or why do I want to run a marathon?
Mm-hmm.
And chances are, my health, or my legs, withstand, my knees cannot withstand and that kind of pressure, so to speak. And so sometimes to say, um, with a part of being realistic is whether or not I have the requisite means and resources to achieve that goal and that objective. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and because then it will just become wishful thinking. And a lot of folks, that's the reason why they don't want to set any goals and things like that, because they're not, chances are they were not realistic in the first place. Okay, and because they have also because it has taken so long for them to achieve it, then they get turned off from it, and there goes the plan, so to speak, right? But yes, being, I like that, being realistic. I don't know if you want me to share some other stuff here.
Sure, you can go
Yes.
ahead.
Okay. Also, you see, I'll also want to recommend that you must plan ahead, and also and outline the plan then. you know. So we must plan ahead, and we must also outline the plan. Um, a part of planning ahead, I believe, is also to recognize that we have what is called self-defeating behaviors, and if we have self-defeating behaviors, then we need to be recognized that these things might interfere with that vision if we
Mm-hmm.
have self-defeating behaviors. And that's why I'm talking, going back to the realistic thing. Do we have self-defeating behaviors that is interfering with that goal? And so we just sometimes need to be true to ourselves about what we have and what we don't have. And that's why we need to plan ahead. Put out, lay it out on the ground, on the floor, whatever. Okay, I have this, I have this, I have this. I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. Okay, what can I do with what I have? Or is it that what I don't have is going to interfere with that goal? And that's what I mean by planning ahead to, and just being realistic. Um, what else here? Plan ahead also will demand that we face our fear of
Yes.
change.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes um, we might want to take on a task that recognize that we must do traveling, but then we're going to say, have a fear of flying. If
Yes.
you understand what I'm saying, and
Mm-hmm.
boy, I can't take the boat at all, or the ship or whatever.
Yes.
But to travel to France necessity one of the two, because swimming is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So
and so
I like that, Andre, that you went into being realistic with our goals, because you are right that lots of the times in planning our goals, we're looking at what other people are writing down, and we are then putting those into our very own goals, which can't be. And so that's why I started and said, for vision boarding and for goals, it's a very personal experience.
that's
It
right.
requires you to literally prioritize and say, what are my top objectives? And how am I going to meet them too? Because that's the next thing that people sometimes forget. It's not just, you have to be, I mean, we want to believe in the magical part of it, or the mysterious part of it, that things can happen out of thin air. But at the same time, as you said, we sometimes have to be realistic about our capacity and how we are equipped to do that. And so the very next thing on my slide alluded to this, because it speaks to the fact that importantly, we should remember that it requires that we should remember that 100% of the time that vision boards will work when we have a mix of identifying our goals and working on them.
Yes,
So I would say that you don't just create the vision board and you leave it, but it's like you track your progress.
definitely.
What are some, you work backwards if you may. So this is the end goal, but what will I need to do to get there?
You can create a schedule.
And create a schedule.
Like, yeah,
Create a schedule to map that.
very much. I'm saying I'm I'm interjecting here to say that working either backwards or forward, have a schedule, create a schedule as to how is it that I'm going to achieve this thing here. Um, Even, and you must also give yourself a timeline, by the way. But even if you don't fall within the timeline, remember, it is your vision board, is your vision board. So if it doesn't happen within this timeline, going back to possible Tessa's question, but if it doesn't happen within this timeline, nothing is wrong if you set a new one,
Yes.
because the goal is to achieve the goal.
Mhm.
The
And the
goal is
thing
to
is,
achieve the goal,
and what
And
I
for
have found
yes,
sometimes as well is that we're so hard on ourselves because goals, I would say, you have end goals and you have process goals as well.
mhm,
So sometimes in achieving the goal, you have to move from point A to point B before you can get to D.
right.
So that is one of the things that I would say as well, that in terms of our vision boards, how to ensure that we're maximizing. I know, Andre, that you would have spoken at length, for example, about setting New Year's resolutions and really putting in the work as it relates to the vision board. And you would have been sharing some nuggets around that. But is there anything else you would want to add?
Yes. I'm going to say this: focus on the process rather than the end goal.
Mhm.
Yeah, that might not sound right, but I'm going to still say it. So yes, that's the end goal. You want to go to France. You want to get married. You want to no no. But and that's why I mentioned earlier about create a system. Then, what am I doing? How do I plan to achieve it? Um, um, you know, is it that other folks are familiar with that goal, and am I getting the support from these folks, or will they hold me accountable? Because sometimes when people hold you accountable, you feel like you have to do it, from a certain standpoint, that is. But I'm saying the process now is, how do I achieve it? What am I doing? What kind of systems am I putting in place? What kind of change of lifestyle that I need to start doing now so that I can achieve that objective? And that's what I mean now from another standpoint now. So it's like I'm twin and fluent, to an extent, Shanoy. Um, uh, in other words, on one hand, I'm saying focus on the goal, but on the other hand, I'm also saying focus on the process. So if the goal, if it didn't achieve the goal within 1 year, then you might need to look at what you have been doing, so as to why you didn't achieve it in that 1 year. So now you're focusing on the process, as to how to reach that end goal. Um, that's what I want to add, to that. Um, I want to also say, that each time you in going through that process and you have achieved one and two things, you must reward yourself. You know, clap yourself, say you reach, man. Yeah, man, reward yourself and say, I am this far ahead in achieving that goal. The process, the things that I've put in place, the systems that I've put in place for me to achieve it, they are coming to fruition. And I'm happy because 2 weeks ago, 1 month ago, 6 months ago, 1 year ago, this is where, I started here, and look at where I am now. So you need to recognize, as you mentioned, the SMART acronym there. You need to recognize where you are along the process and reward yourself too. You know, say, thank you, Jesus. Look what we reached. But reward yourself, because if you don't reward yourself, you're going to feel like you're just working, 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 working. And as the saying goes, encouragement sweeten labor.
And I like that you added that, Andre, because sometimes we're so hard on ourselves and we compare. And I wanted to go off a little bit because, especially in this age of social media, where everybody puts their best life forward, I think sometimes there's undue pressure and people somehow feel that they're behind all of their timeline. And so with vision boards, it's a very personal experience and it's a very different circumstance, it's a very different timeline. So we have to be very mindful of that as well, that we are rewarding ourselves in the process, that we are looking at our personal circumstances. So as you mentioned with travel, one person their goal to put on their vision board may be to travel, whereas somebody else's may be just to have enough to feed their children. And so again, it points back to us being realistic, and it also points back to us not comparing ourselves to others, as Andre said, and rewarding ourselves for all of these little steps. We have a question coming through here. It says, should couples create a joint vision board for the family?
Sorry, say it again.
It's asking, should couples create a joint vision board for the family?
Of course, most definitely. They're ahead of the family. It's not the children planning for them.
Yes, that's so true.
they're they're ahead. Is where is it that we want the family to go, and how
Mm-hmm.
do we plan to achieve this? Most
That's,
definitely, I put it to you actually that in a lot of husband and wife relationships, and I might be getting myself in problems here, but in a lot of husband and wife relationships, they find themselves going around in circles, Shanoy.
yes.
They don't have a vision for them for the relationship and for the family.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't, and I want to go I want to go further to say they need to have a vision board for the relationship, because they need to have constant reminders as to where we want to go and how we want to achieve it.
Yes.
A constant reminder, because with all the stresses of life, believe you me, you need something to remind you to say, hey, don't become distracted by what you don't. I coined a phrase some time ago. I said, don't focus on what you don't have, because it will distract you from what you need
And
to
what you
get.
have. Yes. That is so true.
If you focus on what you don't have, it will distract you from what you need to be doing or what you need to be getting. And
Yes.
so you see, and so I'm saying, even for couples, have that vision board, make the plan for the family, because where are we going? If not, we're going to find that 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, if we look like we're just going around in circles. And what have we achieved? We have achieved nothing for ourselves, we have achieved nothing for the family, and we just kind of fall into what is called the status quo of
Yeah.
what the society says our family must look like and how they must function.
And I like that point, and I would dare say, because I've gone a little further in my personal capacity. So I have my personal vision board, but then I created one for my daughter. And it is something that I've realized that is often overlooked, but children are never too young to start learning about how important it is for them to think more positively of themselves or to think about things that they themselves can work on. And so for my daughter, it's a much simpler sort of thing, you know. It is things such as what are some of the relationships that she can work on, you know. So she may say she's not getting along with somebody at school, and there will be questions like, what do you think you can change in that space, you know, to improve that relationship? So even with her children, I would dare say, and that's a good question, Tessa. I would dare say that for families, there can be multiple vision boards. There can be what your personal vision board is in terms of your personal career goals, your personal health and fitness goals, what your goals are for your family, and then different members of the family can also create their own vision boards.
Right. Yes. So, um, can I share something um, on the same in the same breath, but it is in relation to um, what do I do if I slip up?
Yes.
Because sometimes, Shanoy, you find that um, people make their plans, they're excited about it, things happen, things happen. And I guess I want to say first and foremost that what do you do if you slip up? Don't be hard on yourself. Don't throw your hands in the air. Don't say me can't bother. I
Mm-hmm.
am saying just begin again.
Yes.
Because remember the 3Ds. Your decision determine your destiny.
Yes.
Just remember 3Ds. Your decision determines your destiny. Where do you want to go? So if you slip up, you're not going to reach. If the train stop into the tunnel, it's not going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it needs to continue moving. And that's how you need to see yourself that listen, I might get some setbacks, but that's all they are. They're the setbacks. But notwithstanding, I will continue to function because I need to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I need to see where I'm going to end up, because my decision determines my destiny. Uh, so if you slip up, start over, and you can start over tomorrow. By the
Mm-hmm.
way, you can start over tomorrow. Um, I've heard one gentleman put it this way that you, you know um, give yourself a present by living in the present.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh, I love that, Andre.
right?
You're dropping nuggets. So the first thing I want to highlight, you said your decision determines your destiny, and
Yes,
give yourself a present.
by living in the present.
I love that. I love that. So give yourself a present by living in the present.
I can
And
give you one more too.
what's the other?
Cremate your disappointments, don't embalm them.
You do what?
Cremate your disappointments, do not embalm them.
Ah, that's a lovely one. So you
Right.
hear that, folks? Cremate your disappointments. Don't embank them. So
Embalm.
embalm them.
Right.
So
Don't preserve them.
what that means, do not keep them there hanging around.
That's right.
Burn
You
them
must.
up and leave them behind you.
That's exactly right.
I know the run-ins. I know the run-ins. So,
Yeah.
guys, you would have seen on our screen, and we spoke about this before, that one of the other things I had was for us to keep track of progress, right? And that is there, and Andre referenced it already, and we spoke about it at length. But it's just a reminder that once you have done your board, it is also your responsibility to keep yourself responsible for carrying out the things you say you want to achieve.
Excellent.
So you don't start off January on a high and say by summer you're going to have this sort of health, or you're going to have this sort of body, and you don't do nothing at all. And then when summer comes, you say, boy, the vision board never worked. It does not work that way. You have to keep track of your progress. And remember, guys, you can continue to send your questions in, and we will answer them as best as we can. But the other thing I wanted to bring on the board, and again, we kind of alluded to this, is about keep moving forward. As Andre said, what happens if you slip up? So you keep moving forward, and you do this one step at a time. Remember again, people perform better when they're committed to achieving certain goals. So you won't be focused on achieving somebody else's goals. If it is not a goal that you have for yourself and a goal that you see yourself achieving, then you're definitely going to be having problems there. So
Yes.
again, you do it one step at a time, you focus on your goals, and if you ever slip up, you just keep moving forward.
Excellent.
Yes. So do we have any more questions going? All right. So, I mean, more or less, we would have touched on what a vision board is. I'm sorry, I'm just getting a little bit of coffee. I'm not sure what's happening. But we would have touched a bit on what vision board is. We would have also spoken a bit about what the vision board principle is. And we would have also touched base on how vision boarding works. It's not just about writing things down on a paper setting and forgetting. And I just wanted to add to that that when you do your vision board, make it visible. You know what I ended up doing in one instance? I had made a board and I found that it was so big I didn't know where to put it. There was no space on my wall, or I didn't want to stick it on my wall. But you know, the principle of vision boards that you should be able to see your board daily. You should be able to reflect on the things that you say you want to achieve, and you should simultaneously actualize yourself achieving them. And so
Yes.
with my board, I found it was big. It was a little awkward. I didn't know where to put it. And you know what I did? I did a smaller version that summarized the goals. And that one I put somewhere that I'm using all the time. And that somewhere is my refrigerator. Because with a child that goes to school, I use the refrigerator every morning to make breakfast. And so every morning at the crack of dawn, when I wake up to make breakfast, it is right there in front of me, right? And that has been very important for me to be able to see my vision board. So that's the next thing. When you create your vision boards, ensure that it is in a place that you see it. And ensure it's in a well lit place. It don't make any sense. You make a board and then you hide it. It's like you're having your light and you're hiding it under a bushel, as they would say. So when you do the board, ensure that it is visible. So I heard you saying right, Andre.
Yes. Definitely, because you need something to remind you. Is a constant reminder. Is um what Superman is it is your kryptonite.
Mhm.
You know, Shano, I'm on a little time thing here for me, but can I share um some F's,
Mhm.
and even as it relates to how we must not surrender to some of these F's, and if there are folks out there who can take note of these things, that would be good. Um, Not that I'll be able to explain all of them, but
Mhm.
I just kind of came across some of these things here. Um, don't surrender your dreams to your failures. Don't. And we can talk about those after I mention them. Don't surrender
Mhm.
your dreams to your foes. I like the one about foes because sometimes you can have some people that don't believe in the vision board. Then you know what happens? You have to park them one side because if you follow them, you don't reach anywhere either. Don't surrender your dreams to your frustrations. Yes, you're going to just keep on keeping on. Things don't going to happen. Life don't come with your terms and conditions, and because it doesn't come with your terms and conditions, it necessitates a need for you to adjust. Don't surrender your dreams to fences, and I'm talking about the self-imposed barriers that we have and the boundaries, that we believe we cannot cross, or or the I don't think I could ever accomplish such a task, or it is too big for me. Those are fences that you have built up, and that's why you're not going to accomplish, your goals, and you're going to remain in a rut almost, or just going around in circle. Also, don't surrender, and this is the biggest one. And like I said, we can talk about these, but don't surrender to finances. And you shared your personal experience, even as finances, and being and supporting a venture that you wanted to do. But don't also surrender your dreams to finances. Sometimes that's the first thing we say. We say, well, women have no money. you know well, go to people who have money and sell them your dream, man, and you'll be surprised to know how far you can go. So that's what I kind of want to say, while I'm on the path of exiting, unfortunately.
Yes, yes. And we should be wrapping in any case, but I just wanted to take one last question, Andre. Someone is asking, what if they're in a very bad situation, they can't see their way out? How do they motivate themselves to not just do the board, but to continue to monitor it?
Well, remember, as we said, and that's why well, I think I may have answered the question, um, you know, before I heard the question. When I talk about some things that we must not surrender ourselves to. And one of the things one of the F's I mentioned is our frustrations.
Mm-hmm.
That says sometimes when we look, it does look like it's too big for us. But maybe it is high time we stop telling ourselves what is it that we cannot do and start telling ourselves that we will do, of course, with the help of Almighty God. And so these these are the limited and closed concepts which sometimes hinder us from turning our dreams into realities. And so I'm saying here that the truth is, how do I motivate myself? I'm going to use one term. I'm going to share a term with you that, believe you me. So we use, remember the Albert Bandura, when he said the yes you can, the self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is in all of us actually, but sometimes our self-talk is what interferes with that yes you can. If we tell ourselves that, listen, I cannot, then it is self-defeating actually, and we are putting ourselves into a position where we cannot even think objectively and clearly as to how to rise above this particular challenge. But not only that though, I would like to say, I'd like to remind, or to, in answering that question, to make the statement: you have to see yourself taking care of yourself. Let me say it again. You have to see yourself doing what? Taking care of yourself. You have to see yourself taking care of yourself. If you don't recognize and see that, listen, I have a responsibility um, to overcome this struggle or to overcome this pain. It is whose responsibility? It is my responsibility. It is not where I'm asking for persons' permission for me to be happy or for me to function. No. Remember, a person's opinion of you doesn't identify who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You have to see yourself what? Taking care of yourself.
Oh.
I need to, and so if you don't, and I'm saying here, that is one of the first things that you're going to have to tell yourself. I want that see a vision board there. Write down that statement. Put it into your pocket. Get up every day and repeat the statement to yourself. I have to see myself taking care of myself. And once I have that concept, then we can move now from how do I take care of myself? Do I take care of myself in what I eat? Do I take care of myself in even what I think? Do I
Mm-hmm.
take care of myself in the kind of people that I associate myself with? Do I
Yes,
take, if you understand what I'm saying?
that's super.
How do I take care of myself? And then you're going to, so if you ask your brain the right question, the brain will give you the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
But if you tell your brain the wrong thing, then the brain will function the wrong way. And don't
Great.
ask me to repeat that.
No, I thoroughly understand, Andre. I know you have to run, and we thank you so much for coming. And that point that you said perfectly summarizes the fact that you can't pour from an empty cup.
That's right.
That's what it was. And I'm glad you mentioned that because, especially for my Jamaican mommies and daddies out there, sometimes we tend to want to do everything for our children, but we forget that if we're not in the right frame of mind, if we're not in the right health, if we're not in the right wealth, and we're putting wealth on our vision boards because we want to be wealthy in mind, body, and soul. So if
Mm-hmm.
we're not healthy and wealthy in those ways, then we're not in a position to pass that on to our children as well. So, Andre, if you're going to exit now, you can let us know, and then we will just wrap up. And any parting words, or was that your parting words?
Well, my parting words would be that um, I mentioned don't surrender to fences.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, stop telling yourself what you cannot do, and stop, um, you know, um, sensationalizing your pain.
Yes.
Stop doing what? Sensationalizing your pain.
Yes.
Because if you sensationalize your pain, then you empower it. And once you empower your pain, then you feel defeated in how you're going to recover from it. That would
And when
be
you
my
say
parting words.
sensationalizing your main, do you mean like stop feeling sorry for yourself in a word?
Well, that too, but if every time you talk about your painful experiences and the areas in which you feel defeated, um, what? It's not going to change your reality.
It isn't.
It's not going to change your reality. Actually, I'm going to say something. One more last thing then, as I said something about reality here. Um, and it isn't even in relation to disappointments, because sometimes we allow our disappointments to cripple us from going on and from functioning. But remember that I say disappointments occur in a moment in time and should be left in that moment and in that time.
Yes.
It occurs when? In a moment in time and should be left in that moment and in that time. It is because we don't leave our disappointments. That's why we consistently, or constantly rather, I should state, sensationalize our painful experiences. So
Okay.
now our disappointments now become the forefront of our mind and thinking, and therefore we can't seem to go forward or go over this hurdle or wall.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much, Andre.
My pleasure.
It was indeed a pleasure having you, and those were indeed words of wisdom. I've been trying to capture a few of them, but this webinar is being recorded as well, so hopefully I can just compile those and share with persons who may have missed the webinar. But thank you so much for going on. Before you leave, tell persons where they can find you, because professionally you are a counseling psychologist, and ever so often we have people in our network who need counseling for whatever reason, for not just themselves, but for their family members and loved ones. So you can just share with them, and I'll also be sure to pin that information in the chat.
I don't know how to do it. It's the first time doing this actually, but I can give you my email address. It is Andre Allen, AndreAllen underscore CASEY at yahoo.com. That is Andre Allen underscore Casey at yahoo.com. Just if you send me an email, I will do my best to respond. More than my best, I will respond. But I also can be contacted at Family Life Ministries. Um, um, Family Life Ministries, 926-8101. But
926.
926-8101.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Andre.
My pleasure.
All right. So I will now continue Family Life Ministries. I'm just trying to pin this information here. So, guys, for those of you who would have been listening as we went along, I had asked earlier if there's anyone here who has ever done a vision board. And I had kind of wanted to see by show of hands how many persons had, because I wanted to assert, if we're speaking to the choir already, or if there are persons among us who has never completed a vision board. So if you can just quickly jump in and in the chat and just write yes or no to say if you have ever done a vision board before. Okay, I'm seeing the comments coming in. Never done one. No. Um, Anyone else? All right, so largely, most persons have never done one. All right, so this particular webinar, we had focused on mostly what it is about a vision board, because I've had people being very skeptical and saying, boy, this thing coming like say is the new wave and everybody talking about it and that sort of thing. But by and large, I would have hoped that from the discussions that you would have at least learned that there are some merits to doing a vision board, because it can be a way to really channel your dreams, to channel your goals, and